Brace yourselves, because Big Jon Steel is back, and this time, he's taking on an atheist who thinks he's cracked the code on God's love. Spoiler alert, Jon tears through those arguments like a hot knife through butter, and by the end, the atheist admits he'd send more people to hell if he were God. Yeah, it gets that real. Let's dive in.
I'm just curious. So if in Genesis 1 through 3, Adam and Eve, or chapters 1 through 3, Adam and Eve are in the Garden of Eden, and I'm just wondering why, if they could be punished so harshly for consuming the forbidden fruit, why it was there in the first place, if God created it all.
So they had a choice.
Yes, but why would an all-living God give them the choice to do something that would send them into the fall?
To give them a choice.
But why would an all-loving God do that? The
to
choice
do that. So they have the ability to do that. That's why he did it.
Yes, but if he was all-loving, he wouldn't punish them for something that he knew that they could do.
Why does all-loving mean you have to be utilitarian?
Utilitarian as in like...
just seeking maximal level of pleasure and well-being.
Yeah, but if you love somebody, you're not going to send them into essentially like eternal punishment for doing something that you gave them the choice to do.
Yes, you will. Yeah, absolutely will. If you have somebody like in your family, if someone you knew in your family murdered someone, you probably call the cops on them.
Yeah, but would you force them to essentially be burdened forever and like punished forever?
Yeah, if they murdered somebody, they probably go to jail forever for the rest of their life.
Yeah, but you're a Christian, so you know that after that, if they repent, then they're able to go to heaven. Mm-hmm. So would you burden them with punishment for the rest of eternity? That's my question. If you love them.
Yeah, so the Christian belief is that hell is locked from the inside. People who are in hell are there because they choose to be.
Well, because they don't choose the right religion. They don't choose Christianity. They don't follow Jesus.
Yeah, they don't choose to be with God, and so therefore they choose to be in hell, because those are the only two options.
So, do you think that all Jewish people go to hell?
I have no idea. I have no idea who goes to hell and who doesn't. That's God's judgment alone.
Yes, but you should have some understanding of how you can go to heaven and how somebody else can go to heaven.
I have no idea. I have no idea who goes to heaven, right? It's God's judgment alone. God says that if you trust in him, you will be saved.
Okay. I just don't really agree with you in the statement that like giving somebody the choice is something that an all-loving God would do. I don't understand how...
Yeah, okay, show me the symmetry breaker. Would you call the cops on your family member if they killed someone?
Yes, but that's not relevant.
Why isn't it relevant?
That's not...
How is it not relevant?
I'm asking if you were in the position of God and you gave Adam and Eve the choice to eat the forbidden fruit, and they did, why... I
can't answer that hypothetical, because you're saying if I was in the position of God, I can't fathom what it's like to know all possible things.
Yes, but you can fathom why he did that. You do agree with him that you would send them into the fall?
Would you call... You just keep hand-waving it, right? Would you call a family member, right, for murdering? Would you call the cops...
But that's not relevant to this.
It is relevant. It's completely relevant. It's a one-to-one analogy. It's a one-to-one analogy.
Not at all.
So if God says that you disobey me, there will be consequences and you will surely die, and they choose to disobey them, choose to disobey him, and they suffer those consequences. And then we say, well, if you go kill someone, there'll be consequences and you'll surely go to jail, and they choose to go kill someone. What's the issue?
So the difference is, the difference is in the scale of punishment, because it's different to say...
Yeah, I think we got off easy.
Yeah.
We got off way easy. Disobeying God is far worse than killing someone.
is killing somebody not disobeying God in itself?
That's an aspect of disobeying God. But the worst thing you could do is disobey God.
Okay, so I guess in in Genesis 1 through 3, what happens is they eat the fruit because they're tempted to eat the fruit, and then they cover themselves up, and then God decides to send them to.
They didn't cover themselves up.
Toil away in the fields.
God covered them up.
They did
They covered themselves with fig leaves because they had shame, and then when God realized what happened, He covered them with animal skins.
What?
So
Is that from Genesis?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I don't remember that part.
No, because you already have this like negative view of God, so you only remember the parts that make God look bad. You don't remember the parts where it says that God cared for them even after their sin.
I read through Genesis 1 through 3 from purely an academic standpoint.
I don't believe you.
I had to read it for it. I'm taking a course at my university about religion and popular culture, and I had to read Genesis 1 through 3, chapters 1 through 3 for that class.
Then why don't you remember the parts where?
me?
Then why don't you remember the parts where God was good by them?
Because that's not what I was focusing on.
Right, that's what I just said. I literally just said you're only focused on the bad parts.
I wasn't focused on the bad parts. It's just I was looking at it to answer questions for my class. That's what it was. I don't agree with you. I don't think we're gonna be able to come to an understanding.
Right, because you have a utilitarian point of view. You think that God should just maximize pleasure and well-being, and you think that is what good is.
Well, I don't think an all-loving God would punish.
Define all loving and what that looks like.
Well, from my perspective, what all loving is how I would love people. So
that's an example, not a definition.
How would you define it?
Yeah, I'm not going to answer your question for you.
Okay, I don't need to answer your question. I have.
But you're coming up with a contention.
Example.
You're coming up with a contention. I'm showing you the issue with your epistemology. You're saying, hey, God is not all loving. Well, I ask you for the definition of all loving, and then you can't provide one. So if you do not know the definition of all loving, then how do you know He is not?
Because I wouldn't do that.
So right, you have a utilitarian point of view. You say, I dislike how this is happening, so therefore it's wrong. Right? This is an argument from emotion, has no logical basis.
There's no logical basis in religion.
So that's just a hand-waving comment, right? So I showed you an issue with your epistemology, and then you're just like, well, religion sucks.
No, I'm not saying religion sucks. I'm saying that there is no logic in religion. There's faith. That's why you believe.
There is logic in religion. We believe logic is grounded in God. We believe the only reason we have logic is because God's existence. You can't tell me some of the greatest.
Faith.
It's not pure faith. So, for
like
example, are you going to tell me that Thomas Aquinas lived off pure faith? One of the greatest philosophers of all time?
I'm not familiar with Thomas Aquinas.
Thomas Aquinas would be like in the Mount Rushmore of philosophers.
I could tell you that there's plenty of philosophers that go and enlightenment thinkers that
right.
go
So you're ignoring my actual statement, right? I'm not saying because a philosopher believes in God, God is true. That's not my argument. You're saying there is no logic in faith, right? No logic in religion. It's all based on faith. What I'm telling you is we have one of the greatest philosophers of all time who came to the conclusion that God exists using nothing but logical methods.
Why are you asserting that he's one of the greatest philosophers of all time, if you don't mind me asking?
So it's like Aristotle, Aquinas, Socrates. These would be guys that you would consider like some of the greatest because their philosophies are still used through all time for like thousands of years. They still apply today.
Karl Marx, Freud, Sigmund Freud, would you consider them some of the greatest philosophers too?
I wouldn't put them on the Mount Rushmore, but they'd be up there.
Why not?
Because their philosophical foundations aren't grounded in our philosophy. They're using already grounded philosophical foundations for their philosophy. What I'm saying is like Aristotle, his metaphysics is still used today. So like when you look at people like Karl Marx, When you look at people like Karl Marx, their metaphysics is built off of Aristotelian metaphysics.
Most modern academia has some basis in Marxism.
Notice how you still haven't addressed my
Freud's.
question, and you just kind of keep gish galloping to other points.
Because I don't think that because one philosopher came to the understanding that God is real, that asserts that I should believe in God.
I never said that. That wasn't my argument, and that shows how dishonest of a conversation you're having, because that was nowhere near my rhetorical goal when I brought up Aristotle, or Thomas Aquinas. Sorry,
Thomas Aquinas. Yeah.
Yeah, that wasn't my rhetorical goal. Was to say Thomas Aquinas believes this, so therefore you believe it.
What you were asserting is that since philosophers can come to this logical conclusion, you're saying that God is real.
Nope.
That I should come to that conclusion as well.
No, never said that. Never even remotely made that claim. I didn't even pet the head of that claim, my friend.
Okay, maybe you didn't assert the.
I didn't assert it. I didn't point at it. I didn't even look at it.
You said Thomas Aquinas came to a logical, decided that their Christian belief through logic, and I am saying that I do not think that's true.
You don't think Thomas Aquinas came to his Christian belief using logic?
Oh no, he could have come to his Christian belief, but I'm saying that what are you getting at?
My whole reason I brought that up is you said there is no logic in religion.
You're bringing up one philosopher that I'm not familiar with. There's plenty of very logical arguments that go against Christianity.
Name one.
Here's name one. Okay. So how can, if there's all these faiths that say if you just believe in God you'll go to heaven, how can you decide that Christianity is the right one?
And which famous philosopher cited that ridiculous claim? Atheism.com?
No, I don't understand why my saying that is less valid than
because my friend, you need to understand that when you start an argument and you go reaching the end of the argument, you don't change the argument halfway through. You originally said there's lots of philosophers who have brought up arguments against Christianity, and I said name one, and then you brought out this thing that you pulled out of your own butt, and now I asked you which philosopher that came from, and you said, well, why can't it be from my own butt? Because our original contention is you said it came from these philosophers.
My original contention is that I don't think that since Thomas Aquinas came to that I need to come to that same conclusion.
Right. I never said that you should. That's not my argument.
But
I never said because Thomas Aquinas believes it, so should you. That's not my argument. I don't know why you think I'm making that argument. So I'll say it for the fifth time. I am not saying because Thomas Aquinas believes in God, so should you. Nor have I ever said that.
Okay. So, yeah, I don't agree with you. I don't think we're going to come to the same conclusion.
You don't agree with me because you literally are just gish galloping all over the place. You don't even know what you're talking about. You're appealing to your own emotion. You don't like the fact that God did something, so therefore it's wrong.
Yeah, that's entirely what I'm saying.
Okay.
I don't think that is.
Yeah, so I don't like the fact that my prime minister runs the country the way he does, so therefore I don't believe he exists anymore.
That's not. I can observe my prime minister. I can see that that's what's happening. I can't.
Well, I'm just using your logic. Your logic is I don't like the way God behaved in the garden, so therefore he doesn't exist.
What proof is there that there was the garden other than the Bible?
Yeah, I take the garden on faith. There's no actual empirical evidence of the garden.
Yeah. Okay. There's empirical evidence that Justin Trudeau exists.
Yeah, but that's fine. If you want to get into the evidence, we can go through the evidence. But your whole argument for saying that the religion is wrong is an appeal to emotion fallacy.
Okay.
You haven't asked for any evidence. We haven't gone through any of the evidence. You said an all-loving God wouldn't punish somebody for disobeying him. And I say, yeah, he would. And you say, well, I disagree, so therefore he doesn't exist. That's your argument that you made.
Well, yeah, I'm arguing that I don't think that an all-loving God would do that. And I'm saying...
Yeah, based off what?
My basis for that. Based on my understanding of empathy.
Okay, so...
It's that simple.
If you knew that you didn't do that, you knew that more people would end up in hell, would you still not do it?
Still not. But they had no understanding of that.
That's not the question I asked you.
No, I probably would not eat the fruit.
That's still not the question I asked you. If you were God, because you said, I know God's not all good because I wouldn't do it, right? So if you were God and you had all knowledge and you knew that if you didn't punish Adam and Eve for their sin, it would result with more people choosing to go against God and going to hell, would you then not punish them? Or would you still punish them? What would you pick?
I would probably not punish them in the same way.
That's not what I asked you. Don't change the topic.
Okay. Yeah, I would punish them. Maybe.
Right.
It depends.
Right. So how do you know that God didn't pick the maximal way that ends up with more people in heaven?
Because I'm not just going to believe blind faith.
I'm not asking you to believe it on blind faith. I'm asking how you know it's not true. Because you're asserting that God did something I don't likey, so therefore he don't existy. So now you have a burden of proof. You must state that this is the absolute worst method he could have picked. And by saying this is the worst method he could have picked, or not the optimal method, you must provide another method that's better.
Okay, I wouldn't punish them.
Okay, so you choose not to punish them and you end up with more people going to hell. Do you think that's optimal?
Do you believe, what sect are you very quickly? Like, what's your
doesn't matter.
Is it just a place away from God?
Oh yeah, so my version of hell, that's no problem. I can answer that. So my version of hell is that you are in the presence of God, but because you are rejecting him, it's causing suffering.
Okay. I would, if I was God, I would not punish Adam and Eve.
So then you end up with more people in hell.
Okay. Yeah.